Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me. R. Lee Ingalls here, author, writer. Today's podcast is part of my personal series, so a little bit more socially forward. Today is June, so Pride Month, and this post is going to be part of that series, I guess, or part of my statements on pride. First of all, a little commercial. My second book, The Prairie Has a Rainbow, available on Amazon and other online retailers. This is a story of my life, being born in the mid-1900s, and my experience through time growing up in the upper Midwest, and my experiences. So for people of my generation, a lot of this is going to be very familiar to you. You're going to have experiences much like these, but for those younger generations, it will give you an opportunity to look at our history and find out more about how we got to where we are today. So hopefully you'll buy it. You know, one of the comments that I have heard so often is people that have bought it said they couldn't put it down. In one case, someone said it's a real page turner. Another one said I bought it, started reading it, and I found one evening I finally finished it at 3 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't put it down. So hopefully you'll get it. You'll have a shared that same experience. I would love to hear from you if you do. So I want to talk about it's a good news story, but kind of the end of a series. So I'll tell more about how we got to this point in other videos, but I wanted to talk about this first because, you know, in this world of everything is bad news, this is kind of a good news story. It has to do with my father and I. So I had a house in Galveston for many decades, and for about 20 years, my mother and father would spend a couple months each winter at that house, and I would go down there and visit them each weekend, which gave me an opportunity to sit and talk with both of them in a way that my siblings didn't, and I would otherwise not have had. And one of the topics that would come up regularly, not all the time, but regularly, is the fact that I'm gay in my life and Dad's thoughts on that. And here's what the blessing in that was. Over those 20 plus years, I watched him evolve from where he was when I first bought the house down there to this point that I'm going to talk about now. I'm in my early 50s. I just started dating Brett, but Brett is one of those people that everybody adores right away, including my dad. He really liked Brett, even in those early days. So we're down there in Galveston. We're sitting out there one night, and he said, I have a concern for you, and here's what it is. So his parents, my grandparents, Monty and Marie Ingalls, had a neighbor by the name of Fred Poole. Fred Poole had the nicest house on the block. In fact, that house is still standing today. But he was gay, and he had a boyfriend that lived with him, and they were my grandparents' best friends. They did stuff every single weekend. They would get together and play cards or cook together, whatever, but they spent every weekend together. And they had, Grandma and Grandpa had no problem with the fact that Fred Poole and his boyfriend were gay, and they lived together as a couple. And they were at a lot of our family functions that were there at Grandma and Grandpa's house. So I knew them. I knew Fred Poole better, but I'm sorry, I do not recall his boyfriend's name. But so I knew him. However, I didn't spend that much time with him, so I didn't really know that he was gay or even that was a thing in those days. So so life is going on. They're having a good time, best friends. Suddenly, the boyfriend gets ill and passes away suddenly, leaving Fred alone. And he's not one of those people that can spend a lot of time alone and be okay with it. So he was on a quest for finding someone else to share his life with. And Dad is seeing this. And by this time, Dad has to know I'm probably gay. There wasn't much about me that would have led you to believe something else. So he had to have known, or at least strongly suspected that I was gay. So Fred did meet someone, a younger man, very nice looking. Dad said from his position or his vantage point, the young man was just in it for Fred's money. And Fred did try to supply this young man with a type of life that he actually couldn't afford. So he said that they went through all the money. that Fred had. And he was considered a wealthy person in those days. And then when that ended, Fred knew he had to keep it up the lifestyle or this young man was going to leave. So he mortgaged his house to the maximum he could to continue supplying the lifestyle for this young man. But eventually, as you can imagine, those funds ran out as well. And just like everybody thought, the young man did then leave, leaving Fred alone once again with no money. His house is mortgaged past the point that he can afford to pay for it. Eventually he had to sell it, and he ended up moving into a care facility of some type. And Dad said that he got quiet. And those rare occasions that he did see or hear from him after that, he wasn't the same person. It appeared to Dad that he had resigned himself to passing away alone. And he said it was the saddest thing that he ever witnessed. And he felt that that was going to be my future as well. And he didn't want that for me, which, I didn't realize at that point that Dad even thought in those terms for me. But I was really surprised and happy that he shared that with me. But I did my best to assure him that would not be my experience. First of all, I am not afraid to be alone and have been at a few times in my life. And, I didn't have a bad time. I had a good time. However, now I'm with Brett and have been for almost the past 19 years. So moving forward in time, so Brett and I now have been together for 9 years, and it's time for us to get married. So in 2014, we actually got married. We flew to Minnesota, where it was legal at that time for two men to marry each other. And we had a ceremony at the insistence of my sisters. And it was a day that, whose wedding day isn't this huge memory thing for them? And it certainly was for us. But the one thing that I took away from it was, after the ceremony, the very first comment that was made was from my dad sitting right behind us. And he said, "Finally, I can stop worrying about you," which was a very touching moment, one that I will carry with me through the rest of my life. So I, in that moment, realized Dad has fully evolved on this issue. From someone who really had a great deal of problem with it when I came out to him in my late teens, to now, not only is he accepting of it, he loves my husband, and he's happy and secure in where I am in my life. So it meant a lot. Again, it's a good news story. This is the way that it should be for all families. If it takes an evolution, my suggestion and the purpose of this, or point of this video, is evolution can happen if you allow it to. So I'm wishing your family luck in this, if you are experiencing the same thing that I did. And if you have a son, a daughter, a child, a brother, sister, cousin, whatever, that is gay, I think Dad's struggle initially was he tried to understand what it was like to be gay. There is no understanding. The only thing that you can understand is that's the way it is, and be okay with it. It's the only hope that you have for understanding. So I think Dad heard that and adopted that, and that helped him. So hopefully you'll find this interesting. Let me know your thoughts. You should be seeing my social media sites here. Reach out to me. Let me know what you think. Thank you for joining me.